Hi, welcome to SPR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. It's the conference championships week in the NFL playoffs. And of course, as always, we are going to do a call with Brent from BetDSI for our Into the Weekend with BetDSI show and get his information on the betting action that he's taken on these two upcoming games, both Sharp and Public. Brent, thanks for being back with us once again. Looking over these two games, though, I'm noticing that there really hasn't been much line movement at all in either of them. Denver opened at 3. It's still 3 now as of Friday afternoon. Total 44.5, still 44.5. And the Arizona-Carolina game opened at 3. It's still about 3 now. The only movement that we've really seen was the total opened at about 47 market wide. Now it's 47.5 or 48. So the total got bet up a little bit. But other than that, not much movement at all. Is that because there hasn't been much action, or because all the action that's come in has been very balanced?
I mean, it's a good situation for us in that we're sitting on key numbers, obviously, so it's going to take quite a bit to get us off those numbers. But in terms of the actual dollar volume wagered, taking a look at the Denver game, for example, we're very, very well balanced. Now our wager count, that's a different story, which I'm sure we'll get into. The Carolina game is a situation where I've got more money actually on Arizona, but more wagers on Carolina. Again, we'll get more into that. But it's just a situation where the numbers have worked out quite well for us so far.
All right, let me ask you just one other question that people have been sort of kicking around, which is that, with these playoff games, they're very heavily bet. I mean, if you nail these numbers dead on, doesn't that then leave you vulnerable to people teasing, and basically you wind up having to pay, if you nail these numbers and the games land roughly on where they're expected to, then you have to pay all teasers.
Well, I mean, if you want to, take a look at last weekend, you had a New England as a 6-point favorite who won by 7. Arizona favored by 7, won by 6. Carolina was 2.5, won by 7, and Denver was a 7-point favorite who won by 7. So, if it was going to be a disaster last week, it would have been a good example of that being a disaster, because we're working with 4 games instead of just the 2.
But overall, last week was still okay. You were able to weather that storm.
Yeah, surprisingly, yeah, we did. Actually, on Saturday, we actually did quite well. I mean, it was a good result for us, and I mean, when you look back at the Arizona Green Bay game, the way that turned out, I mean, people may or may not realize the importance and the impact to our bottom line of that game landing, the Arizona game landing 6 instead of 7. I mean, 7 would have been terrible for us because of all the people who bought the half points here and there. So you're down 6.5 and 7.5. It would have been awful if Arizona had won by 7. The fact that Green Bay scored that late touchdown and Arizona won by 6 made a huge difference for our bottom line for the weekend. So I mean, we did have a very good day on Saturday. We had a very bad day on Sunday. So here we are for another week.
All right, well, let's get into the two games. First one, the Pats are road favorite at Denver. I have heard, in my interviews and talks over the week, that the sharper opinions I've heard have been on Denver at +3 and also leaning towards the under at 44.5. Is the public all over the Pats as a road favorite?
The public can't get enough of New England.
Really?
Wow. For a playoff game, for our count to be what it is very, very surprising. I mean, earlier in the week it was like 7-1. We're down to about 6-1 in terms of my betting count in favor of New England. So I'm way one-sided. If you just look at the number of wagers we've taken on this game, it's way one-sided in terms of New England. That's basically why here in house I'm using 3 minus 120 still, because I just got so many people betting Denver. Now the only betting New England. All the public is all over New England at 3 minus 15, 3 minus 120. They were even linked to 25, but the market's kind of dropped down to like 315. So I'm a little higher at 3 minus 120 just because I have so many more wagers on New England. The only sharp action that I took on this game was Denver +3 even money. I've got a couple bets there +3 even money where I'm still at that number, and they also bet the money line +150 on Denver. So Denver outright was another sharp play. The total, again, here myself, I really haven't seen any sharp action on, or movement on the total. We're still sitting at 44.5. I've got, about twice as many bets actually on the over, which, again, typically points to the public betting the over. So as of right now, this is magnified to the nth degree in terms of the public sharp split.
Wow.
Public loving New England, and the sharps loving Denver.
There you have it, a pronounced sharp public split on the side with New England, Denver, and then let's move on to Arizona, Carolina. Again, not much movement on the side. I'd be a little bit surprised to hear that there was a notable sharp action either way there. And again, the total did get bet up. Was that because of some early sharp action, or was it just big public action betting the over, and that caused the line movement to get bumped up?
Well, I'm going to surprise you with the sharp action on the side then, Peter.
On Carolina?
No, Arizona.
Really? Okay, tell us about that.
When we had Carolina -3, -120, and I got just like really strong. When I'm talking 4 different hits on Arizona +3 even money from different guys.
Really?
I have a couple of different guys on Arizona +145 on the money line as well. So the sharps definitely like Arizona in this one. My wager count is only about 2 to 1 almost, 2.5 to 1 we'll call it, getting down the nitty gritty. So it does favor Carolina in terms of the actual number of wagers I've taken. But because of the sharp action, my dollar volume is almost 2 to 1 in favor of Arizona. So those deep pockets that the sharps have just overwhelmed the public money betting Arizona. So Arizona +3 even money. Definite sharp there. Public loving Carolina 3. I'm 3 -115 right now. My money line is still -165 on Carolina just because I've got a lot of public money betting the Panthers there at home to win outright. The total you touched on, it's interesting in that I've got sharp action both way, which is kind of nice on this one. The first bet we did take was the over 47, which is kind of sharp. Ended up going to 48. Took some sharp action back on the under 48, so we're sitting at 47.5 right now. Naturally, that's just kind of how the line movement went. So it just bounced between the one number, which is great, 47, 48. Boom, we're sitting at 47.5. In terms of my dollar volume, pretty much dead even. I've got almost 4 to 1 in terms of the count, in terms of the over bet. So mostly the public on the over there, Peter.
So the 2 sharps that went opposite directions on the total, those are both list guys?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is the one guy who bet the over 47. He bet it he could have bet a full unit, and he bet almost like a half unit. And the guy who came on the under is a guy who's good long term. He's what we'll call a pseudo sharp. He's not a list guy, but I mean he's definitely well respected, obviously. So it's good in that I've got kind of like a guy who is on the list who bet a half unit going against a guy who's a pseudo sharp who bet the other way. So it seems like the number's working for us.
Right. So then it sounds like we have a pronounced sharp public split on both games then with respect to the spread.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. I mean, you don't really expect that. I mean, we're doing this call on Friday. I'm sure a lot's going to happen in terms of the betting action come weekend, because there's other guys who, I mean, there's sharps who just basically will not fire until game day when I guess they don't know all the information and stuff like that. One thing I do want to touch on though, it's kind of nice this weekend in terms of the injury information we're looking at. I mean, it pretty much doesn't exist. I mean, we know what's going on with Gronk. We know what's going on in Denver. We know that Stewart's probable and all that kind of stuff. Last weekend was just a disaster. I mean, we had Roethlisberger was who knows how he was going to look. I mean, we kind of determined that he was going to play, but how ugly was he going to be? How good was he going to be? DeAngelo Williams was out. Macklin, we had that question again for Carolina. Stewart issues, Lynch. I mean, it was a mess last week in terms of managing the numbers. So this is real nice for us. We got all the information. No one's, no key guys are really hurt. Everyone's probable. The numbers in terms of being 3 working real well for us. So it's looking like it's going to be a really good weekend for us, Peter.
Brent, awesome information as always. Thanks so much for your time, and we will be back with you next week when we finally have our Super Bowl matchup. Thanks so much, Brent. Talk to you soon.